My beloved child, stop for a moment. Do not rush past this message. Not because something terrible is about to happen. Not because you should be afraid. But because there is a question many people avoid asking themselves. A question so important that ignoring it can quietly change the direction of an entire season of life. Take a deep breath. Slow down. Listen carefully. Because tonight's message begins with a conversation. A conversation that never happened in public. A conversation that took place in silence. The kind of conversation most people never notice. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, sometimes the greatest danger is not what is happening around you. It is what has quietly been happening within you without your awareness. Pause. Let those words settle. Because somebody listening needed that reminder. Imagine a traveler. A traveler carrying a map. A destination. A purpose. A dream. For years, the traveler keeps moving forward. Step after step. Day after day. Month after month. But one day, something changes. Not the destination. Not the dream. Not the purpose. The attention. The traveler becomes distracted. Focused on noise. Focused on frustration. Focused on comparison. Focused on problems. And slowly, without realizing it, the traveler stops paying attention to the map. The destination never moved. But awareness did. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, people rarely lose direction all at once. They lose it gradually through distraction. Think about that. Because many people believe major mistakes arrive dramatically. Yet often, important changes happen quietly. A habit ignored. A lesson forgotten. A perspective neglected. A priority misplaced. Small things. Yet over time, small things create large consequences. Archangel Michael says, my beloved child, wisdom protects people long before problems ever appear. Feel that deeply. Because wisdom is not merely information. Wisdom influences decisions. Decisions influence habits. Habits influence direction. Direction influences outcomes. That process quietly shapes every future. Perhaps that is why this message found you tonight. Not to create fear. Not to predict disaster. Not to promise immediate answers. But to invite awareness. To encourage reflection. To remind you that attention matters. Because what receives attention often becomes stronger. Fear becomes stronger. Gratitude becomes stronger. Wisdom becomes stronger. Distraction becomes stronger. Purpose becomes stronger. The question is simple. What are you strengthening right now? Pause there. Because that question deserves an honest answer. Many people spend years strengthening worries. Years strengthening doubts. Years strengthening frustration. Meanwhile, wisdom waits patiently to be heard. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, what you repeatedly focus upon gradually influences who you become. Think about that. A single thought seems insignificant. Yet repeated daily, it influences perspective. Perspective influences choices. Choices influence habits. Habits influence character. Character influences the future. Nothing happens instantly. Everything develops gradually. Just like a seed. Quietly. Patiently. Faithfully. You may notice the QR code on your screen or the link in the first comment and description. For some viewers, it becomes a meaningful place to continue reflecting on these messages, explore prayer resources, connect with encouraging community discussions, or discover additional faith-centered content connected with the channel. Others continue reflecting privately. Both approaches can be meaningful when chosen sincerely and intentionally. Because reflection creates awareness. Awareness creates wisdom. Wisdom creates clarity. And clarity influences direction. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, awareness often arrives when people finally become willing to listen. That is why some viewers choose to explore the reflection resources available through the QR code or the link below. Not because they must. Not because anyone expects them to. But because they appreciate continuing their prayer journey, exploring encouraging messages, or connecting with a supportive community focused on faith and growth. Others prefer quiet reflection on their own. Both choices are valuable. Because growth is personal. And every journey unfolds differently. You may once again notice the QR code or the link below. For some people it provides access to prayer pages, reflection resources, encouraging discussions, and community support connected with these messages. Others continue reflecting privately. Both paths can be meaningful when approached freely and sincerely. But stay close. Because the traveler has not yet realized what was truly causing the confusion. And in Part 2, Archangel Michael reveals the hidden assumption that quietly pulled the traveler's attention away from wisdom, and why recognizing it changes everything. Backhand index pointing right. Comment this word if this message reached your spirit. Awareness. Backhand index pointing right, and if you are ready for the next section, comment. Part 2. Because Part 2 reveals the hidden assumption that silently influences attention, decisions, and future direction, and why understanding it changes everything. Part 2. The assumption that quietly pulled the traveler off course. My beloved child. Stay here. Do not leave yet. Because the traveler in our story still does not understand what happened. The destination remained the same. The purpose remained the same. The opportunity remained the same. Yet somehow, clarity became harder to find. Pause. Take a slow breath. Listen carefully. Because what Archangel Michael revealed next changed everything. The traveler believed something. Not intentionally. Not consciously. Not all at once. But gradually. Quietly. Almost invisibly. And that belief began influencing every decision. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, many people do not lose direction because they lack wisdom. They lose direction because they stop believing wisdom matters. Think about that carefully. Because somebody needed those exact words. The traveler did not wake up one morning and decide to abandon the map. It happened slowly. One distraction. Then another. Then another. One excuse. Then another. Then another. One delay. Then another. Then another. Until eventually, the map remained in the traveler's hands. But no longer received attention. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, neglect often creates consequences more quietly than mistakes. Pause there. Because that truth is powerful. Many people watch carefully for major problems. Yet they overlook small habits, small compromises, small distractions, small patterns, things that seem harmless, yet repeated consistently. Those small patterns begin shaping the future. Think about a garden. A garden rarely changes dramatically overnight. Growth happens gradually. So does neglect. One missed day. Then another. Then another. Eventually, the difference becomes visible. Life often follows the same principle. Small actions repeated consistently create outcomes. Small improvements repeated consistently create growth. Small distractions repeated consistently create confusion. Archangel Michael says, "My beloved child, every repeated choice becomes a vote for the future you are creating." Think about that. Every day contains choices. Choices about attention. Choices about perspective. Choices about priorities. Choices about attitude. Those choices seem ordinary. Yet they quietly shape everything. The traveler eventually realized something surprising. The greatest obstacle was not outside. The greatest obstacle was not a person. Not a circumstance. Not a limitation. The greatest obstacle was forgetting what truly deserved attention. Jesus speaks softly. "My beloved child, where attention goes, direction often follows." Feel that deeply. Because attention is powerful. Whatever consistently receives. Attention becomes stronger. Fear becomes stronger. Gratitude becomes stronger. Wisdom becomes stronger. Distraction becomes stronger. Purpose becomes stronger. That is why attention matters. Think about your own life. What has been receiving your attention recently? Growth? Or worry? Learning? Or frustration? Gratitude? Or comparison? Wisdom? Or distraction? Those questions matter. Because answers reveal direction. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, awareness begins when people become honest about what they are feeding every day. Pause there. Because somebody listening needed that reminder. Many people spend years hoping for change. Meanwhile, their daily attention continues strengthening the same patterns. The same worries. The same assumptions. The same distractions. Yet awareness changes everything. Awareness creates choice. Choice creates action. Action creates growth. Growth creates transformation. That process changes lives. Not overnight. Not dramatically. Gradually. One realization at a time. One decision at a time. One lesson at a time. The traveler finally understood that clarity was never completely gone. Wisdom was never completely gone. Direction was never completely gone. Attention had simply wandered elsewhere. And once attention returned, clarity returned. Purpose returned. Perspective returned. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, sometimes finding your way forward begins by remembering what matters most. Feel that deeply. Because perhaps somebody listening needs that reminder today. Perhaps your next step is not discovering something entirely new. Perhaps your next step is reconnecting with wisdom you already possess. Lessons you already learned. Truths you already understand. Values you already know matter. That realization changes everything. You may notice the QR code on your screen or the link in the first comment and description. For some viewers, it becomes a meaningful place to continue reflecting on these messages, explore prayer resources, connect with encouraging community discussions, or discover additional faith-centered content connected with the channel. Others continue their reflection privately. Both approaches can be meaningful when chosen sincerely and intentionally. Because reflection creates awareness. Awareness creates wisdom. Wisdom creates clarity. And clarity influences direction. Archangel Michael says, "My beloved child, wisdom grows stronger whenever people intentionally make space for it." That is one reason some viewers choose to explore the reflection resources available through the QR code or the link below. Not because they must. Not because anyone expects them to. But because they enjoy continuing their prayer journey, exploring encouraging messages, or connecting with a supportive community focused on faith and growth. Others prefer quiet reflection on their own. Both choices are valuable. Because growth is personal. And every journey unfolds differently. You may once again notice the QR code or the link below. For some people it provides access to prayer pages, reflection resources, encouraging discussions, and community support connected with these messages. Others continue reflecting privately. Both paths can be meaningful when approached freely and sincerely. But stay close. Because the traveler is about to discover something even more surprising. A hidden belief that silently influenced confidence, courage, opportunity, and growth for years without being noticed. And once that belief becomes visible, everything begins making sense. Archangel Michael speaks. "My beloved child, awareness reveals the pattern, but belief determines the direction." That realization changes everything. Backhand index pointing right. Comment this word if this message reached your spirit. Attention. Backhand index pointing right, and if you are ready for the next section, comment. Part 3. Because Part 3 reveals the hidden belief that quietly influences confidence, courage, opportunity, and possibility, and why recognizing it changes everything. Part 3. The hidden belief that quietly influences everything. My beloved child. Stay close. Because the traveler in our story is about to discover something unexpected. Something that was never written on the map. Something that could not be seen by looking at the road. Something that had been influencing every decision for years. Not a person. Not a circumstance. Not an obstacle. A belief. Pause. Take a slow breath. Allow yourself to become fully present. Because what Archangel Michael revealed next changed the traveler's understanding completely. The traveler believed that confidence would arrive first. Confidence before action. Confidence before growth. Confidence before learning. Confidence before movement. And because confidence never felt complete, movement kept being delayed. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Months became years. Not because the destination disappeared. Not because opportunity vanished. But because the traveler was waiting for a feeling before taking a step. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, many people wait for confidence to begin, while confidence is waiting for them to begin. Pause there. Because somebody listening needed exactly those words tonight. Think about that carefully. How many skills were learned without confidence at first? How many conversations happened despite uncertainty? How many challenges were faced without feeling fully prepared? How many important decisions were made before every answer was known? More than you realize. Because growth rarely begins with certainty. Growth often begins with willingness. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, willingness opens doors that fear keeps closed. Feel that deeply. Because willingness changes everything. A willing heart keeps learning. A willing mind keeps growing. A willing person keeps moving forward. Not because they possess perfect confidence. Because they remain open to possibility. The traveler eventually realized something surprising. The people admired most were not fearless. They simply learned how to continue despite uncertainty. They learned despite mistakes. They learned despite setbacks. They learned despite moments of doubt. And because they continued learning, they continued growing. Archangel Michael says, my beloved child, wisdom grows whenever people remain teachable. Think about that. Every lesson learned increases understanding. Every challenge overcome increases resilience. Every experience creates perspective. And perspective changes decisions. That process quietly shapes lives. Not overnight. Not dramatically. Gradually. One lesson at a time. One realization at a time. One decision at a time. The traveler began seeing old experiences differently. Experiences once viewed as failures became lessons. Experiences once viewed as obstacles became preparation. Experiences once viewed as delays became opportunities for growth. Nothing changed about the past. But understanding changed. And understanding changed everything. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, wisdom often arrives when people stop asking why something happened and start asking what it can teach. Pause there. Because that question is powerful. What can this teach? That question creates growth. That question creates awareness. That question creates wisdom. And wisdom creates transformation. Think about your own journey. How many lessons became clear only after time passed? How many challenges revealed unexpected strengths? How many difficult moments taught something valuable? Those experiences matter. Because every lesson learned becomes part of the wisdom you carry forward. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, nothing learned through sincere experience is ever wasted. Feel that deeply. Because somebody listening underestimates their own growth. They see unfinished goals. Unanswered questions. Remaining challenges. Yet they overlook everything already gained. The wisdom. The resilience. The understanding. The patience. The perspective. Those things matter. More than most people realize. Think about a tree. The visible part receives attention. The height. The branches. The leaves. Yet the strength comes from what remains unseen. The roots. Deep. Steady. Growing quietly beneath the surface. The same principle applies to people. Character grows quietly. Wisdom grows quietly. Understanding grows quietly. Resilience grows quietly. And eventually, what was hidden influences everything visible. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, the strongest growth often happens where nobody else can see it. Pause there. Because somebody needed that reminder. Not every victory receives recognition. Not every lesson receives applause. Not every improvement becomes obvious immediately. Yet growth still matters. Because growth changes perspective. Perspective changes choices. Choices influence direction. Direction influences the future. That chain of influence quietly shapes every life. You may notice the QR code on your screen or the link in the first comment and description. For some viewers, it becomes a meaningful place to continue reflecting on these messages, explore prayer resources, connect with encouraging community discussions, or discover additional faith-centered content connected with the channel. Others continue their reflection privately. Both approaches can be meaningful when chosen sincerely and intentionally. Because reflection creates awareness. Awareness creates wisdom. Wisdom creates clarity. And clarity influences direction. Archangel Michael says, "My beloved child, clarity often grows wherever reflection is welcomed." That is one reason some viewers appreciate exploring the reflection resources available through the QR code or the link below. Not because they must. Not because anyone expects them to. But because they enjoy continuing their prayer journey, exploring encouraging messages, or connecting with a supportive community focused on faith and growth. Others choose private reflection. Both paths are valuable. Because growth is personal. And every journey unfolds differently. You may once again notice the QR code or the link below. For some people it provides access to prayer pages, reflection resources, encouraging discussions, and community support connected with these messages. Others continue reflecting privately. Both choices can be meaningful when approached freely and sincerely. But stay close. Because the traveler is about to reach the turning point of the journey. A moment where wisdom becomes stronger than fear. A moment where possibility becomes stronger than limitation. A moment where action becomes stronger than hesitation. And once that shift happens, the road ahead begins looking completely different. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, when wisdom takes the lead, possibilities appear where fear once saw only obstacles. That realization changes everything. Backhand index pointing right, comment this word if this message reached your spirit. Wisdom. Backhand index pointing right, and if you are ready for the next section, comment. Part 4. Because Part 4 reveals what begins changing when wisdom finally takes the lead, and why that transformation influences every area of life. Part 4, the moment everything begins to look different. My beloved child. Stay close. Because this part is not about a secret hidden from you. It is about a truth that has been standing beside you for a very long time. Quietly. Patiently. Waiting to be recognized. Pause. Take a slow breath. Let your shoulders relax. Allow your mind to become still. Because what Archangel Michael is about to reveal may explain why some seasons felt heavier than they needed to feel. Not because life was unfair. Not because you lacked strength. Not because you were forgotten. But because perspective influences experience more than most people realize. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, the moment wisdom becomes stronger than fear, life begins revealing possibilities that fear kept hidden. Think about that carefully. Because fear and wisdom look at the same situation differently. Fear sees uncertainty. Wisdom sees potential learning. Fear sees obstacles. Wisdom sees opportunities to grow. Fear sees reasons to stop. Wisdom sees reasons to continue. The circumstances may not change immediately. Yet the perspective changes. And perspective changes everything. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, many doors appear locked only because fear convinced people not to approach them. Pause there. Because somebody listening needed those words tonight. Think back over your own life. How many opportunities once seemed impossible? How many conversations once felt intimidating? How many goals once felt unreachable? Yet eventually, you discovered they were possible. Not because the opportunities changed. Because your understanding changed. And understanding creates confidence. Archangel Michael says, my beloved child, confidence often arrives after action, not before it. Think about that. Many people spend years waiting to feel ready. Waiting for certainty. Waiting for confidence. Waiting for guarantees. Yet life rarely provides guarantees. Growth often begins with movement. One step. Then another. Then another. And eventually, confidence begins growing through experience. Experience teaches lessons. Lessons create wisdom. Wisdom creates courage. Courage creates momentum. Momentum changes lives. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, movement creates opportunities that waiting alone never reveals. Feel that deeply. Because somebody listening has been waiting for the perfect moment. The perfect time. The perfect conditions. The perfect answer. Yet perhaps the next step does not require perfection. Perhaps it simply requires willingness. Willingness to learn. Willingness to grow. Willingness to trust the process. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, progress rarely asks for perfection. Progress asks for participation. Pause there. Because that truth changes everything. Many people underestimate small steps. A single conversation. A single lesson. A single improvement. A single act of courage. Yet small steps repeated consistently become powerful. Think about a river. A river does not transform a landscape overnight. It does so gradually. Patiently. Consistently. Drop by drop. The same principle applies to growth. One wise decision today. One tomorrow. One next week. One next month. Eventually, those decisions create a completely different future. That is why consistency matters. Not perfection. Consistency. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, small faithful actions often create extraordinary outcomes over time. Think about your own journey. There are things you understand now that once confused you. There are challenges you can handle now that once overwhelmed you. There are lessons you carry today that only experience could teach. That is evidence of growth. And growth deserves recognition. Archangel Michael says, my beloved child, never ignore the evidence of your own progress. Feel that deeply. Because many people focus only on what remains unfinished. Meanwhile, they overlook everything they have already overcome. The strength developed. The patience gained. The wisdom earned. The resilience built. Those things matter. They become the foundation for everything that follows. You may notice the QR code on your screen or the link in the first comment and description. For some viewers, it becomes a meaningful place to continue reflecting on these messages, explore prayer resources, connect with encouraging community discussions, or discover additional content related to faith and personal growth. Others choose private reflection and prayer in their own way. Both approaches can be meaningful when chosen sincerely and intentionally. Because reflection creates awareness. Awareness creates wisdom. Wisdom creates clarity. And clarity influences direction. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, clarity grows wherever reflection is welcomed. That is one reason some viewers appreciate exploring the reflection resources linked below. Not because they are required to. Not because anyone expects them to. But because they enjoy continuing their journey of learning, prayer, reflection, and growth. Others prefer quiet reflection on their own. Both paths can be valuable. Because growth is personal. And every journey unfolds differently. You may once again notice the QR code or the link below. For some people it provides access to prayer pages, reflection resources, encouraging discussions, and community support connected with these messages. Others continue their journey privately. Both choices can be meaningful when approached freely and sincerely. But stay close. Because Part 5 reveals the one daily decision that quietly influences peace, confidence, growth, relationships, purpose, and future direction more than almost any other choice. And once you understand it, everything we have discussed begins connecting together. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, the future is often shaped by what receives your attention today. That truth changes everything. Backhand index pointing right. Comment this word if this message reached your spirit. Courage. Backhand index pointing right, and if you are ready for the next section, comment. Part 5. Because Part 5 reveals the daily choice that quietly shapes your future, and explains why understanding it changes everything. Part 5. The daily choice that quietly shapes who you become. My beloved child. Stay here. Do not rush this moment. Because what we are about to discuss appears simple. So simple, in fact, that many people overlook it completely. Yet it quietly influences almost every area of life. Your peace. Your confidence. Your relationships. Your decisions. Your habits. Your future. Pause. Take a slow breath. Allow yourself to become fully present. Because tonight we are talking about attention. Not ordinary attention. Intentional attention. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, every day you decide what will receive your attention, and your attention gradually influences your direction. Think about that carefully. Because attention is powerful. Far more powerful than most people realize. Whatever consistently receives attention tends to become stronger. A habit receives attention. It develops. A skill receives attention. It improves. A relationship receives attention. It deepens. A goal receives attention. It progresses. Even thoughts work the same way. Thoughts repeatedly revisited become familiar. Familiar thoughts influence beliefs. Beliefs influence decisions. Decisions influence actions. Actions influence outcomes. And outcomes influence the future. That is why attention matters. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, guard your attention carefully, because attention quietly shapes your experience of life. Pause there. Because somebody needed those words tonight. Think about a garden. Whatever receives water grows. Whatever receives care develops. Whatever receives nourishment becomes stronger. The same principle applies to life. If fear receives attention every day, fear grows stronger. If discouragement receives attention every day, discouragement becomes louder. If comparison receives attention every day, comparison becomes more influential. Yet the opposite is also true. If gratitude receives attention, gratitude grows. If wisdom receives attention, wisdom grows. If learning receives attention, understanding expands. That realization changes everything. Because suddenly, you recognize that perspective is not accidental. Perspective is influenced by focus. And focus influences direction. Archangel Michael says, "My beloved child, many people are not trapped by circumstances. They are trapped by what continually receives their attention." Think about that. How much energy is spent worrying about things that never happen? How much attention is spent revisiting mistakes that cannot be changed? How much peace is sacrificed trying to predict every possible outcome? More than most people realize. Yet wisdom offers another path. Focus on lessons. Focus on growth. Focus on gratitude. Focus on what can be learned. Focus on what can be improved. Those choices create freedom. Jesus speaks softly. "My beloved child, peace often begins when attention returns to what truly matters." Feel that deeply. Because peace is rarely found through controlling everything. Peace often grows through perspective. A perspective that recognizes growth. A perspective that notices blessings. A perspective that values learning. A perspective that trusts wisdom more than fear. That perspective changes lives. Think about your own journey. How many lessons have strengthened you? How many experiences increased your understanding? How many challenges revealed abilities you did not know you possessed? More than you may realize. Those experiences matter. Because every lesson learned becomes part of the wisdom you carry forward. Archangel Michael speaks. "My beloved child, growth is not always dramatic, but it is always valuable." Pause there. Because somebody needed that reminder. Many people expect growth to feel extraordinary. Yet most meaningful growth happens quietly. One better decision. One healthier habit. One wiser perspective. One thoughtful conversation. One moment of gratitude. Those things seem small. Yet repeated consistently, they transform lives. Think about a river. A river shapes stone not through force alone, but through consistency. Day after day. Month after month. Year after year. The same principle applies to personal growth. One lesson learned today. Another tomorrow. Another next week. Another next month. Eventually, those lessons create wisdom. Wisdom creates better decisions. Better decisions create better direction. Better direction influences the future. That process quietly changes everything. Jesus speaks softly. "My beloved child, extraordinary futures are often built through ordinary faithfulness." Feel that deeply. Because consistency matters. Not perfection. Consistency. Perfection is unrealistic. Consistency is powerful. Learning consistently. Growing consistently. Reflecting consistently. improving consistently. Those actions create meaningful progress. And meaningful progress creates confidence. Confidence creates courage. Courage creates momentum. Momentum creates possibilities. Archangel Michael says, "My beloved child, every day offers another opportunity to strengthen what matters most." Think about that. Every morning brings new choices. New opportunities to learn. New opportunities to grow. New opportunities to improve. New opportunities to become wiser. Those opportunities may seem ordinary, yet they shape lives. You may notice the QR code on your screen or the link in the first comment and description. For some viewers, it becomes a meaningful place to continue reflecting on these messages, explore prayer resources, connect with encouraging community discussions, or discover additional content related to faith and personal growth. Others continue their reflection privately. Both approaches can be meaningful when chosen sincerely and intentionally. Because reflection creates awareness. Awareness creates wisdom. Wisdom creates clarity. And clarity influences direction. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, clarity often appears when people slow down enough to listen. That is one reason some viewers appreciate exploring the reflection resources linked below. Not because they are required to. Not because anyone expects them to. But because they enjoy continuing their prayer journey, learning from encouraging messages, or participating in a supportive community focused on faith and growth. Others prefer personal reflection. Both paths can be valuable. Because growth is personal. And every journey unfolds differently. You may once again notice the QR code or the link below. For some people it provides access to prayer pages, reflection resources, encouraging discussions, and community support connected with these messages. Others continue reflecting privately. Both choices can be meaningful when approached freely and sincerely. But stay close. Because only one final revelation remains. One truth that connects everything we have discussed. Attention. Perspective. Wisdom. Growth. Purpose. Peace. Faithfulness. And once that truth becomes clear, you will never see your journey in the same way again. Backhand index pointing right. Comment this word if this message reached your spirit. Focus. Backhand index pointing right, and if you are ready for the conclusion, comment. Final part. Because the final part reveals the truth that transforms temporary inspiration into lasting peace, and explains why your story is far more meaningful than you realize. Final part. The truth that changes how you see your entire story. My beloved child. If you are still here. After every reflection. After every lesson. After every quiet moment of thought. Then perhaps this final message arrived at exactly the right time. Not because it contains a hidden secret. Not because it predicts the future. Not because it promises an instant solution. But because it reminds you of something many people forget during difficult seasons. A truth so simple, yet so powerful, that once it settles into your heart, it changes the way you see your entire journey. Pause. Take a slow breath. Allow the noise to fade. Allow your thoughts to become still. Because this final message deserves your full attention. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, your life is not measured only by where you stand today. It is also shaped by who you became while traveling to this moment. Think about that carefully. Because many people measure life only through visible outcomes. The goals achieved. The goals delayed. The opportunities gained. The opportunities missed. The answers received. The questions that remain. And because they focus only on outcomes, they overlook something equally important. Growth. They remember the challenge, but forget the strength it created. They remember the setback, but forget the wisdom it produced. They remember the uncertainty, but forget the resilience it developed. They remember the waiting, but forget the patience it taught. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, every season leaves a lesson behind for those willing to learn. Pause there. Because somebody listening needed those exact words. Think back over your own journey. The difficult seasons. The unexpected turns. The unanswered questions. The moments that seemed impossible to understand. At the time, they felt overwhelming. Yet today, many of those moments have become lessons. Lessons that shaped your perspective. Lessons that strengthened your character. Lessons that increased your wisdom. Lessons that prepared you for future challenges. Those lessons matter more than you realize. Archangel Michael says, my beloved child, every experience that taught you wisdom became part of the strength you carry forward. Think about a traveler. The traveler does not gain wisdom only by arriving at the destination. Wisdom is gained during the journey. The roads traveled. The mistakes corrected. The lessons learned. The experiences lived. The same principle applies to life. Character develops during the journey. Perspective develops during the journey. Wisdom develops during the journey. Purpose becomes clearer during the journey. That is why every season matters. Even the seasons you would never choose again. Because every season teaches something valuable. Jesus speaks softly. My beloved child, growth often happens quietly while people are searching for dramatic change. Feel that deeply. Because meaningful growth rarely announces itself. It often arrives quietly. One better decision. One healthier habit. One wiser perspective. One thoughtful conversation. One act of kindness. One moment of gratitude. Those moments seem small. Yet repeated consistently, they transform lives. Archangel Michael speaks. My beloved child, extraordinary futures are often built through ordinary acts of faithfulness. Pause there. Because that truth changes perspective. Many people wait for dramatic breakthroughs. Meanwhile, their future is already being shaped by daily choices, daily habits, daily priorities, daily attention, daily perspectives. Those things seem ordinary. Yet over time, they become extraordinary influences. Think about a seed. Nobody sees the growth immediately. Yet beneath the surface, roots are developing. Strength is increasing. Foundations are forming. Preparation is happening. Eventually, what was hidden becomes visible. Perhaps your own growth has been unfolding in the same way. More wisdom. More patience. More resilience. More understanding. Even during seasons when progress felt invisible. That growth matters. Because inner growth eventually influences outer results. You may notice the QR code on the screen or the link in the first comment and description. For some viewers, it becomes a meaningful place to continue reflecting on these messages, explore prayer resources, connect with encouraging community discussions, or discover additional content related to faith and personal growth. Others simply continue their personal reflection and prayer privately. Both approaches can be meaningful when chosen sincerely and intentionally. Because reflection creates awareness. Awareness creates wisdom. Wisdom creates better decisions. And better decisions influence the future. Archangel Michael says, "My beloved child, awareness is one of the greatest gifts a person can develop." Think about that. Awareness helps people notice lessons. Awareness helps people recognize opportunities. Awareness helps people understand themselves more clearly. Awareness helps people grow intentionally. And intentional growth changes lives. That is one reason some viewers appreciate exploring the reflection resources linked below. Not because they are required to. Not because anyone expects them to. But because they enjoy continuing their reflection, prayer, learning, or community connection beyond the message itself. Others choose quiet reflection in their own way. Both choices are valuable. Because growth is personal. And every journey unfolds differently. You may once again notice the QR code or the link below. For some people it provides access to prayer pages, reflection resources, encouraging discussions, and community support connected with these messages. Others continue reflecting privately. Both paths can be meaningful when approached freely and sincerely. Now listen carefully. Because this is the final truth. You are not your hardest season. You are not your greatest mistake. You are not your deepest fear. You are not your biggest disappointment. Those things are experiences. Not identities. You are a person who is still learning. Still growing. Still becoming. Still moving forward. And growth is one of the clearest signs that purpose is still unfolding. That means your story is not finished. Your learning is not finished. Your opportunities are not finished. Your growth is not finished. Perhaps that is why this message found you. To remind you of something you may have forgotten. You have learned before. You have adapted before. You have overcome before. You have grown before. And because of that, you can continue again. One lesson at a time. One decision at a time. One day at a time. Archangel Michael's final words. My beloved child, do not measure your life only by where you stand today. Measure it also by the wisdom, strength, and growth you gained along the way. Take one final deep breath. Look back with gratitude. Look forward with hope. Walk forward with wisdom. Continue learning. Continue growing. Continue becoming. Because your story is still being written. Backhand index pointing right. Comment this word if this message reached your heart. Purpose. Backhand index pointing right, and if this message encouraged you, share it with someone who may need hope today. Because sometimes the right message arrives at exactly the right moment.